All right, what's up, guys? So obviously I am halfway doing a shtick where I call other analysts out because I'm kind of like doing the Conor McGregor of MMA analysts, but they're giving me a lot of ammo here, man. Like, I don't see anyone looking objectively at what's going on and then reading between the lines of what's happening. So let me define what is happening between Masvidal, Conor, Usman, and Diaz, okay? That is a 4-person triage of negotiations going on, and I don't hear anyone objectively really talking about what is probably happening behind the scenes. So let me do that for you, okay? So here's the deal. We know for sure that Usman and Masvidal were supposed to fight, right? Then all of a sudden, that fight's not happening. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about maybe Conor and Masvidal are gonna fight. Oh, maybe. And then it's like, oh, but I don't know. Look at this. Maybe Usman's gonna fight Conor. And then it's like, oh, wait, Masvidal's calling out Diaz. Ali is saying, hey, yeah, we'll give Conor a title shot at Usman, blah, blah, bloop, bloop. And everyone's like, whoa, isn't that crazy? Is Conor going to fight Usman? Okay, this is all business. This is all negotiation. And let me tell you exactly what is almost certainly going on, okay? Let's start with Masvidal, okay? Masvidal, going into the Nate Diaz fight, signed a very lucrative deal for himself for that fight. Now, I'm going to make a guesstimation from the position of the UFC that they probably signed him to a one-fight deal for that particular fight because he was headlining it. It wasn't like any other fight. They probably didn't want to lock themselves into a Conor type of deal with him because what if Nate Diaz beat his ass, right? Like Masvidal, he was on a tear, but what happens if Nate Diaz comes in there and just tears through him, right? Is he still going to be worth the money that he was worth for that fight? No. Right? So he's an unknown entity. So if I was going to guess, the reason why Masvidal's talking about how they didn't come with the money that he was hoping and yada, yada, yada about that short-term thing on UFC 249 is because right now he is negotiating his next deal because he only had one fight on his Nate Diaz deal. Again, speculation, educated speculation as someone who has experience in business and knows the sport, okay? So let's assume that Masvidal does not have a set-in-stone deal right now, right? So he's about to go fight Usman, right? They're negotiating the Usman fight, and he's asking for much more money than Usman's getting for the fight. So Ali Abdelaziz, being a good manager, is going, whoa, hold up. You're telling me that you're going to pay Masvidal X and Usman's going to get Y? That's not going to work. Exactly like Khabib when he fought Conor, right? Like Khabib was like, yeah, sure. I'll fight for what's on my contract, the $200K that I get, what's on my contract, but not if you're going to turn it into some mega fight and Conor's going to make $50 million. I'm not taking $200K plus a little bit of back end. I'm going to get paid evenly or at least close because I'm the champion. You need me as much as you need Conor for this fight. And Usman is saying, you need me as much as you need Masvidal, right? This is the exact same. I mean, listen, again, I'm speculating, but I'm speculating from a position of just pretty confident knowledge, right? So that is the stalemate that they find themselves in, right? So the UFC is trying to negotiate with both of them. They don't want to pay either of them, right? They want to pay each of them $1 for the fight. Each of them wants as much money as possible. Usman is negotiating against what Masvidal is asking for, and the UFC is stuck in the middle, and that is what the stalemate in that fight is, that negotiate. Booking that fight is, right? So at that point, Masvidal is like, whatever, you know, if Usman's not going to fight because he wants blah, 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 I mean, or Usman, somebody says, well, what other fight do you have, right? Because Masvidal accurately, as I said in one of my other videos, is like, what other fight are you going to get where you're going to get back end on the pay-per-view like you would with me, right? You need me more than I need you. Fight with me, you're guaranteed to do 1 million pay-per-views. A fight with who? What are you going to do, Colby again? You're going to do T. Wood? You already did Tyron Woodley. You already know exactly what that's going to make. It's going to be half as many pay-per-views. So my value is bigger than anyone else's, and so you need me, right? It's all about establishing value, right? So he goes and he's like, you know what? I don't even need this Usman fight because look, because they're like, oh, really? Well, who do you got? What happens if you don't fight Usman? Both of them are positioning like, oh, well, if you don't, well, sure, okay, fine. Oh, we need you? Well, what do you got? What are you going to do if you don't fight us? And he goes, oh, I don't know. And then so he goes out and then he floats that he might fight Conor. So it's like, oh, yeah, I'll fight Conor. Maybe I'll fight Conor. Huh? Maybe I'll fight Conor. Negotiating the Usman fight. Then Ali Abdelaziz is like, oh, really? You'll fight Conor? Hey, we're willing to give Conor a title shot. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now, Jorge? We're going to give Conor this fight instead because that's an even bigger payday than you. And then what are you going to do? So Masvidal goes on Twitter and he's like, hey, Nate, let's run it back. He's like, see, I can play this game too. right? So all of this thing, Masvidal, Diaz, Conor, Usman, Masvidal, is all stemming from the Usman and Masvidal negotiation. Absolutely for sure. And when I say absolutely for sure, I say it like, you know, best MMA analyst in the business, making estimations that could be wrong, but unlikely. Most likely that's exactly what's going on, right? So when you're listening to everybody else, you know, guesstimating on what's going to happen in those fights, how about we start from why this is all happening and what's likely to happen? Now, I personally think that, who knows, because you obviously, like, Conor can fight Diaz, Conor can fight Masvidal, Conor can fight Usman can fight, the only fight that's not going to happen is Usman versus Diaz. Okay, out of those four people, the only ones that are not going to fight are going to be Diaz and Usman, right? And Diaz is his own entity. Diaz could headline against a tomato can, and it'll do a bunch of pay-per-views, just like Conor. You know, now Conor is in a position in his career where he can't fight a tomato can, right? He is trying to make belt runs. Diaz, not so much. That's not what he's about. You know what? This is actually a good time for me to call out other fighters who are blowing it with Diaz. Was no one listening when Diaz said why he took all the time off? I think he literally said directly into the microphone. He said, they're like, well, so what was it with the long layoff? And he was like, nobody called me out. I mean, that's directly what he said. He said, no one called me out. Now, I am going to say this. I think that's actually kind of bullshit, because I think if someone would have called him out, he would have just been like, nah, guppy. You know what I mean? Sure, guppy. I think in reality, if anyone would have called him out, that wouldn't have mattered. But that is what he said. And so no one even trying to call him out, I mean, I don't know. If these four guys don't get booked, though, I mean, if all of them are really actually, the only one who hasn't directly stated that they want to fight is Nate Diaz, but you would think he wants to fight. What, you don't want money? You don't want, like, I mean, I could see why he might not want to run it back with Jorge, but certainly with Conor, right? He decisively won the first fight, and I mean, you know, second one, Conor won. It's close though. But yeah, so basically, that is what's going on. End of story. I don't know why anyone goes to any other MMA channels, because I always know what's going down. You should just wait on bated breath. What's Jesse on Fire going to say? Because he's probably going to break the situation down correctly, as I just did. So, subscribe, ring the bell, bone necklaces, son. Bone necklaces. Let's go.